It's day 2 at the ESL Studios in Burbank, California. Method, FollowESports, Dream Deferred, and Luminosity are the only teams remaining in the group stage. Today, we find out which of those teams will join Tempo Storm and Juveniles in the semifinals, and from there, who will take the $50,000 grand prize and who will advance to BlizzCon 2015. Welcome back to the WoW Americas Regionals. What is up, everybody, and welcome back once again to the World of Warcraft Americas Regionals. My name once again is Josh Allen, aka Lord, joined once again at the caster desk by none other than Sid Compton, aka Supatees, and Jared Colston, aka VHell. We had some amazing series yesterday, and that was just the beginning. We've got so many more amazing series lined up for today.
We do, and I have a feeling we're going to have a handful of surprises with all the different comps that these teams have prepared for today, since everyone had a chance to watch every single team play so far. We have eliminated 2 teams so far, but the final 6 are working their way towards those last 3 spots for BlizzCon.
Yeah, definitely. I'm so excited to see those last 3 teams, but we have a lot of other talent to introduce as well, so we're going to be throwing it over to Bajira.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Analyst Station. As you heard, today is day 2 of the Americas Regionals 3v3 Arena Tournament. And yesterday, just to pick back up, we saw 8 teams that came in, reduced to 6. And today, we are going to be moving on into the group stages. Like I failed to mention earlier, I'm Jackson Bajira Blighton, of course, joined by Elliot Venruki Venzel. And you had the pleasure of doing some commentary of those matches leading up into the group stages. What are you expecting in these final group stage matches?
Yeah, we had some tremendously exciting games yesterday. We have Team Juveniles as well as Tempo Storm waiting in that top 4 to see who they're going to be playing against. And these remaining 4 teams are going to be battling it out for these last 2 spots in an attempt to get 3 tickets to BlizzCon.
3 tickets to BlizzCon and a hefty chunk of change, especially if you can land those first 3 spots. So, without further ado, we can take a look at the brackets, but we're going to do that, or we're going to send it over to the casters in order to do that. Let's do this, guys.
Thanks a lot, Bajira and Venruki. We will be hearing a lot more from those guys throughout the rest of the day. We'll be getting into the brackets actually in just a second, but before we go into that, I believe we do have an intro video to go ahead and play, so we'll go ahead and jump over to that.
This is where 8 of the best teams will be squaring off for 3 spots at BlizzCon. This is definitely shaping up to be an amazing day.
And we're going to have to see who ends up on top.
I could not possibly be more hyped right now.
Oh, it'd be a big deal to make it.
I really want to go.
It's definitely one of the most important things.
I think playing at BlizzCon would be pretty cool.
I'm hungry to get to BlizzCon.
Some people are trying to build a career off of winning BlizzCon.
It's just something I've always wanted to be participating in.
Getting to BlizzCon to me is just like really cool. I mean, you get to meet all like the European players and all the other players too. I think it should be really cool.
We're still confident we can place at least top 3.
I feel we've been pretty dominant.
I think we feel like pretty confident that we can qualify.
I know we have what it takes as long as we're consistent.
We're gonna win.
I think I deserve BlizzCon more than anyone else.
I think we deserve it more than every other team.
I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be winning BlizzCon as a team.
It's pretty much just destiny that we make it.
All right, some strong words coming out from every single one of those teams, and fair enough. These teams have been playing so strongly through this entire tournament so far. Sid, why don't you go ahead and walk us through these brackets and show how they've gotten to where they are today?
Yeah, let's take a look at Group A. We still need to decide one team to move out, and you can see that in the winner of Method versus FollowESports.com. Who is going to take it? That's going to be our first series debuting today. Method and FollowESports have been showing that they are a strong force throughout this tournament, but only one of them can make it further, and that's the only remaining teams in Group A. So if we can take a look at Group B now, we can see that Dream Deferred versus Luminosity. Only one of these can push on forward. Otherwise, they're going to have to take the 5th and 6th spot in this tournament. Dream Deferred, having the only Death Knight on their team, are going to want to stay in it. All you Death Knight fans, give them your support. And now we can see the final stage, which is going to be played out completely today. Tempo Storm awaiting their opponents. Juveniles awaiting their opponents. And we're going to decide right here, right now, who is going to go to BlizzCon.
All right, and of course, since we have, since these are the last 2 matches in the group play, these are going to be best of 3s, but every match after that, we are going to be moving on to that best of 5. Now, of course, we are playing a 3v3 arena tournament if you're just tuning in and missed yesterday. And of course, we always start things off on Nagrand Arena, and they have to have the double blind pick. So both team captains have to lock in their comps. And because we allow people to have that 4th man roster, or 4th man on the roster, things can get kind of hairy going into it, since there's a lot of mind games going on trying to predict what the enemy team is going to pick. So once Nagrand is played out, the losing team at that point gets to pick the next map. Following that, the winning team's captain locks in their comp. Then the losing team captain, who knows the map and knows the enemy comp, gets to pick theirs, and they can basically try to counter them as best as possible.
Yeah, and of course there is a ton on the line here as well. Even in these last few days, we do already have obviously our 7th and 8th place teams who will be walking away with that $2,000 prize. But the teams remaining, they're all going after that first place prize. They want that $50,000. That's a huge chunk of change. Even just the difference between first place and second place, once we do have those teams there, winning that final match, both the first and second place teams as well as the third place team will be qualifying for BlizzCon. But in that grand finals match, it's going to be epic because they're battling it out for a $30,000 difference in prize pool. That's $50,000 for first, $20,000 for second. You can more than double your money by winning that series.
Yeah, that's a lot of money, but let's not forget about you guys watching. If you want to join in today, you can follow us at /Warcraft on Facebook, at Warcraft on Twitter, /Warcraft on YouTube, and of course, if you're already here, /Warcraft on Twitch.
And of course, use the hashtag WoWEsports if you want to follow along. And we have been showing some of the tweets that people have been getting really excited about the game so far.
Yep, and we also, of course, through the remainder of this event, we will have this special discount code on the Blizzard Gear store. If you go to gear.blizzard.com, put whatever you like in your cart, and then use the promo code WOWRTB15, that'll net you a sweet 10% discount on whatever's in there. Nothing to sneeze at. Nice little bit of extra change back for purchasing some awesome Blizzard gear.
All right, and of course, we were able to speak with the team captains a little bit ahead of time going into this match, because this is it for this team. Whichever team does lose is also going to join both Hype and Santos Dexterity as the 6th and 7th place teams. So, deciding who's going to make it on to this Final Four is so important.
Yeah, you really want to make it all the way there. And I believe that we've got the team members here we can show you in a moment. And this first series is going to be Method versus FollowESports. So let's take a look at the team of Method.
My name is Chanimal. I play Affliction Warlock, and I'm the team captain.
I trust Chanimal as a team captain because he's responsible, organized, and he has a lot of tournament experience.
I respect Chanimal's BlizzCon championship the most. It gives me a little more confidence going into it, and everyone respects him as a best Warlock, so that helps a lot too.
I'm pretty happy having won it once, especially as an Australian, because I don't think any Australians won before. But I want to win twice and be the only person and only Australian to do that twice. This year's going to be a lot harder than the one I won because there's a lot more new blood. A lot of people are trying a lot harder, and a lot of people can multi-class a lot more, so it'll be really hard to win. We definitely have a lot of comps we can play, so we can definitely counter-comp some people. I think the main thing for us is RMD.
RMD is specifically a really hard comp for pretty much any comp in the game.
I think the RMD games will come down to individual play, so whoever plays better will win.
If we beat the RMDs, then we'll go to BlizzCon for sure. I think we deserve it more than every other team.
All right, it was great to hear from Method, and what they were talking about in there is about how high the level of play in this field is this time around. We saw a lot of new blood this time around. A lot of the tournament veterans just didn't even qualify this year. Chanimal's really being that one pillar of, hey, he won a BlizzCon. So, having a team captain like Chanimal's on your team, it was great hearing the players say that made them feel more comfortable.
Yeah, definitely. But you can see Chanimals is taken to the bench this time. He's going to be trusting his 3 other partners. We can see them here. We've got Citrix playing the Holy Paladin, the closest player. Then Goreki is going to be playing, actually, I believe, a Shadow Priest, debuting almost on every class at this point. And Rosita Jones backing them up in the backline there on that Frost Mage. This is the team Method. If you want them to win, give them your energy. They're going to need all of it in this best of 3 series to decide who moves to the Group 4 stage.
And of course, Method is going to be playing against FollowESports, which is a great team. So if we can see the video about how they are preparing for this match.
I think I deserve BlizzCon more than anyone else. Mainly my Shaman gameplay, I think I'm a lot better than everyone else.
Upsurge is the most skillful captain. He talks the most, and he always has something to say, and always calls everything out.
Upsurge is the best shaman in the game.
I think Upsurge is the only consistent shaman. All the other ones just die without linking or get CC'd off nothing all the time, but he's pretty consistent all the time.
All I'm asking from Upsurge this weekend is to play the best he possibly can, which is all the time. So.
I think my priority as this team captain is just to make sure everyone's ready and everyone's prepared. Everyone knows what they have to do for each comp, each matchup. And that's pretty much all I have to do anyways, aside from play my best. I think my team and my roster is probably the best. I have the best Feral, I have the best Hunter, and I have the best Lock. Everyone on our team knows that we have to play and we have to be ready to win.
Man, Upsurge sounds so confident going into this match. I do like that all the teams were able to talk about, how much they prepared for this tournament, what it means to have a specific captain on the team, and what they're doing for the team. So they have so many different comps that they can play. And like Upsurge was saying, each member of the team is really at the top of their game.
Yeah, they definitely are. We could see that yesterday, sadly losing 2-1 to Tempo Storm, but there was great synergy between Walter, Bear, Upsurge, and Vossel. Of course, Vossel keeping the consistent play, keeping the deeps rolling the entire time, while Walter was on the defense for most of the time. Now in this matchup, they're going to be playing that Feral Lock Shaman. We can see Vossel as the closest player, Upsurge right beside him, and Walter in the back there. They're going to be playing Feral Warlock Resto Shaman, and they're going to be going up against a Holy Paladin Shatter play, and I really feel like they've kind of won the mind game.
Yeah, I really think they do, and you really have to bet it going into this matchup. I'm glad that Method really wanted to throw something unique at the team of FollowESports, and we'll have to see if it'll pay off for them. Of course, Rosita Jones is on your screen right now, and he's going to be the one who's going to be setting up the plays for Method during this matchup.
Yeah, definitely, and we're going to be looking to see how well Vossel can shut down Rosita. Rosita's got to find a way to deal with the Shadow Fury stun from Vossel, as well as his counterspell interrupt. If he's not able to deal with it, if he's not able to get the polymorphs that he needs, his team is going to fall behind and begin to rot.
All right, and of course, like we said before, we're always going to start on the Grand Arena, and both of these teams, it was a blind pick. So it's kind of like playing online on ladder. You don't know who you're going to be, well, you know who you're going to be playing against, but not what they're going to be playing. So now that they are inside the match, they can see the enemy team, and of course, that does mean that now FollowESports has found out that, all right, they secured a good pick. This FLS, it seems like it's going to be strong against this Holy Paladin Shatter play, which of course is a Shadow Priest and Frost Mage being healed by the Paladin. Yeah,
I definitely think that Upsurge needs to be on his toes. We've seen a lot of surprising swaps. Even yesterday, Method was able to take down Starship in game number 1 out of nowhere, and they can do the same thing to Upsurge, so he needs to be on his A game defensively. He's got to be prepared for it because he's the most exposed target potentially for Method.
Now, one of the things to note is that Citrix is playing the double beacon spec instead of Save by the Light, and I know a lot of players just really rely on Save by the Light, just proccing, so that they can use that as kind of a secondary defensive ability, but choosing to run the double beacon is going to have a great effect against the Affliction Warlock.
Yeah, we see Walter moving in, pounce stunning Gorecki, already popping that incarnation from stealth, spreading the bleeds now onto Rosita, the bop preemptively onto Gorecki, but Walter's already switching targets, completely negating that effect. We see a silence onto Walter there, maybe trying to stop a potential Cyclone, but Vossel leading with one Dark Soul tied with that incarnation, trying to get some pressure rolling. Citrix is going to answer that with his Avenging Wrath Execution Sense, stabilizing his team for the remaining seconds as they look for a setup onto Walter with that full Hodge.
All right, now Rosita Jones is doing a great job. Look at how offensive he's playing and where his positioning is. He's staying very far away from Citrix to make sure that Walter Bear is really going to have to work if he wants to get over to toss any CC onto Citrix.
Yep, Walter and Upsurge, once again, a great pair defensively, always knowing when they need to retreat. I believe Walter's going to be looking for a reset here. Citrix's Avenging Wrath is going to be fading shortly, and with it, his ability to increase his healing. We see Method also retreating. Walter now in stealth, looking to find a new target. Vossel trying to load up on dots under whoever he can find behind right now. Citrix getting stunned. Walter looking for a clone. Nice shutdown from Gorecki, silencing that, interrupting the clone. Now a bash onto Gorecki, loading up the full dots. We see a triple Shadow Fury out from Vossel. The Haunt is going to connect. A full clone landed onto Citrix. FollowESports are looking good right now. Gorecki, though, landing a fear. Unfortunately, Absterge pre-tremoring it, reading Gorecki like a book, but they're making a setup onto Absterge. He's going to need to be able to survive this. Walter needs to peel. He's going for the defensive Cyclones. He lands one on Gorecki, not only at low HP. They need to chain a little bit more CC onto Citrix. They might force the dispersion out of this, down to 35% HP, trying to hold on to it. Lava Burst flying out from Absterge right now, down at 29% HP. Citrix is free casting heals, but it's not doing anything. The dispersion has to come out from Gorecki. He actually cancels it to go offensive here, and he could get punished hard for this.
Yeah, that's incredible that he decided to cancel the dispersion because the bubble came out immediately after too. So this may have been a blunder for Method going into this. Look at the hit points bar of everyone on Method. Citrix really needs to work using those double beacons to get the healing of his team just continued to pump out, because now he has to use wings just yet again, and he gets cycloned on those wings.
Yeah, and Method really are not getting any successful setups. Finally, there's a Horrify into Hodge combination, but there's no damage to follow it up. Finally, damage coming through. Walter trinkets the answer. Nice defensive Shadow Fury play out from Vossel, though, to interrupt all the damage coming out from Method. In the meantime, Gorecki has managed to snag a full fear onto Absterge. He's caught in the center of the map. I wonder what crowd control they're going to go for. It doesn't look like they have any. And Walter already behind the pillar, ready to go, going into stealth, realizing here that Incarnation is coming up in 30 seconds, and Gorecki and Citrix do not have a good answer for it.
Yeah, and they're just going to wait until this Incarnation is ready so they can go for a burst. And look, Vossel is holding on to that second Dark Soul right now, as he's not going to use it until he knows that Walter Bear can connect to his target. All right, Walter Bear goes leaping in, and looks like he's going to toss a stun out onto Citrix right there. They're going to see if they can set up some damage without the cooldowns.
Yeah, they've chained that bash into a full fear. Good coordination from Walter and Vossel. In the meantime, Absterge is getting crowd control. They're looking for a setup onto Walter. He's fully dotted. They need to chain CC onto Absterge. There's the Frostjaw to answer it. He trinkets the Frostjaw. Is he going to be able to connect the link? He gets silenced up. He drops the link just in time with that survival instincts. Now FollowESports needs to bring the aggression. That Incarnation is up. They need to go in for the kill. We see Walter stunning up the entire team. Incarnation, Dark Soul popped in coordination. A full hex onto Rosita. He's forced to trinket that, spamming the polymorphs onto Vossel, trying to deny that Dark Soul damage, because right now Citrix does not have a good answer. Finally, the Avenging Wrath coming off cooldown. He's going to use that almost instantly as they land a full fear onto Absterge. Horrify onto Walter. They need to chain it. They chain it into the Hodge. Deep freeze into Absterge. He has nothing for this polymorph. Evanescence coming out from Rosita Jones to land that full polymorph. Walter is in retreat, hiding behind the pillars. They're looking to try and end this. Gorecki running in with that feathered sprint, trying to finish off Walter Bear, but he's doing a great job defensively, landing that bash now onto Gorecki, cloning him up and denying the kill once again.
Oh, that was a great play by Walter Bear right there. Really playing defensively when he knew that Absterge was going to be sitting in that crowd control. We see an Ascendance coming out from Absterge right now, as he's even going to be tossing out those two lava bursts onto Rosita Jones, but it doesn't look like it's going to make a dent in his health. But look at the mana difference on the two healers.
Yeah, we can see both teams actually agreeing almost to a reset here, and I think Citrix needs to sit down and take a drink. We're going to be moving into dampening. This is going to be a much longer game, and we can see him doing so. It doesn't look like they have a good way to answer the drink. Finally, going to be Shadow Furying him up, but that means that Shadow Fury is now not available to stop the potential setup. But I'm curious if they're going to notice that Rosita is not running Ice Block. He's running that Evanescence, and I wonder if they can punish him for it.
Yeah, and I like that he chose that, because he knows he's going to be able to get the CC out directly when needed. Since when you do take that talent, it does not let you use Ice Block anymore. Instead, it's just normally mages have been using it to stay a little bit more offensive in these matchups.
Yeah, definitely, and I like that decision. A bit of a risk, but you need to take one in a compositional matchup like this, and we can see both teams a little bit reluctant to go in right now. Rosita just throwing out some slows right now, trying to annoy Vossel. Vossel doing whatever he can during this reset period to make sure that Citrix at least needs to keep Sacred Shit up, at least spam a little bit of healing to keep his mana relatively low as we move into dampening.
Yeah, and Citrix doesn't have the chance to sit down and drink, even though the enemy team is just sitting back, because these dots are still rolling out. There is a 1 UA onto Rosita Jones. Let's see if he can almost get a drink out of this. It's going to be extremely important, like you said, since dampening has begun to start.
Yeah, the Shadow Fury to try and shut down this setup. Nice fear out from Vossel, forces the trinket out from Citrix, now landing that full Hodge. They need some damage to follow it up, but Walter's not going to allow him to do that. He trinkets out, reduces the damage he's taking significantly right now with that survival instincts. Now rotating the pressure onto Rosita, pressure onto Gorecki, and Citrix has to answer that with with his Avenging Wrath, increasing his healing, but Walter dipping low. The Spirit Link coming out from Absterge. He had to trinket that, and finally Method finding a point of weakness and taking advantage of it. Walter now with nothing left, and Absterge with nothing left as well. Method could turn this around.
Yeah, that spike was great. I mean, they used a few cooldowns right there to set it up, using that Psychic Horror as a setup plus the Fear. So once that CC comes back up, you look at Absterge just doesn't have anything left. It looks like his second link actually is now going to come back up, so that is great timing for him. We see the Fear onto Absterge as Vossel is already sitting safely behind the pillar, but it looks like they really want to set up on Walter Bear during these matchups.
And Walter knows that he's desperately trying to hide behind the pillar, but he's caught in a full stun. How is he going to make it out of this? Absterge grounds the poly, pops the Aura Mastery for the silence. He needs to get some heals onto Walter, and he's doing a great job to do so, interrupting that frost shell, but now catching a half poly. Walter going on the aggressive position here with that Incarnation Dark Soul combination from Vossel, trying to take down Citrix, trying to force that bubble. Not going to be able to get that. Realizing that the kill is lost, is going to clone up Citrix, force some spread pressure onto Gorecki and Rosita. We see Walter pushing in very aggressively. He's only got one survival instincts left. Absterge able to top him off. They want to stay on the offense with the remaining seconds of this Incarnation, trying to push over there, but he's scared of getting stunned behind the pillar. Good job to not overextend right now from Walter.
Yeah, that was good, and of course that means that Method is going to almost fully negate that Incarnation, and that's a really important part of this match.
Yeah, it definitely is. We see Vossel still trying to keep full dots as Citrix is slowly running out of mana. We can see that FollowESports are looking for that stranglehold right now as Dampening continues to stack. They're just going to starve out their opponents, run them out of mana, and take this game with pure damage.
Yeah, they are. As you can see, Method all completely hiding behind the pillar. They know Citrix needs a drink, but look at that Shadow Fury. The second he sits down to drink, they're going to start denying that a whole bunch. Citrix really needs to get one, though. Down to 30% mana, and you look at Absterge's mana just sitting nice and healthy at 80%.
Yeah, it really is, and at this point, they really don't have an opening right now. Method lost their opportunity. All the players of FollowESports have their trinkets available now. We see them blinking in for the Deep Freeze. Evanescence Polymorph connects. They're making a swap potentially. Nope, they're sticking on to Walter. Trinkets out of that immediately, spamming some heals, getting behind the pillar, playing very well defensively, and I feel like Method needs to exploit Vossel's positioning a little bit more here. They're just kind of touching him a bit, but not any real committal damage. We now see a double Fear, but they're going to poly Vossel. Are they going to make a swap over to Absterge out of that Fear? I wonder. Doesn't look like they want to. Wants to go for the Frostjaw, has to blink out of that Shadow Fear, gets locked on the Frostjaw by Walter, and breaking up that CC is so important for Absterge to stay ahead of this team.
And look at how far forward Rosita Jones is playing right now. And one thing to note is Citrix is also running Hand of Purity instead of that Clemency, so that's going to drop the damage of a lot of the dots, since you have the Feral dots, you have the Warlock dots together, just ticking in so much damage. So I like that he chose to use Hand of Purity.
Yeah, but we got another setup onto Walter. He's going to gate away, dodging that Hammer of Justice out from Citrix, but he's going to connect it. Absterge is caught in a Fear. He trinkets out, but he's on the opposite side. He needs to reconnect to Walter. He gets the link down. Vossel gets inside as well, and they will stay alive. Citrix felt the kill right there, but they are going to be unsuccessful. Walter trying to peel for his team. His entire team is getting crowd controlled, but after surviving this attack, they need to bring the offense. It doesn't look like they want to go for it. They're retreating back to the pillar. They don't want to overextend. They don't want to throw this game. I wonder how much longer they can really stall this out before the burst comes out from Method and they won't be able to deal with it.
So I think the next kill window opportunity is going to be in about 25 seconds. As you can see, both the Berserk and the Incarnation that he likes to stack together are going to be available, and he's going to have a survival instincts just in case something doesn't go right with that. But we'll have to see if they're going to be able to push up, because again, if we have 10 seconds on Incarnation and 30 seconds left on Wings, that's a decent window that they can capitalize on.
Yep, they're swapping over to Vossel. They're changing it up and mixing it up, and I think he's going to get caught off guard. He has no trinket out of this Hodge. Walter needs to keep him alive right now. A bash onto Gorecki, trying to deny those Shadow Word deaths. Dark Regeneration isn't going to do anything with 29% dampening. Absterge has to use that second Spirit Link, connecting it and pre-tremoring the Fear. Despite all that pressure, Absterge is keeping his cool. Now they're looking to rotate the pressure onto Rosita, landing a full Hex, but he's going to decurse that immediately. Huge Ferocious Bite coming out from Walter. Can they purge off this bop in time? We see Absterge reaching for it. He purges off the bop. They need to put Rosita down here. He's not playing Ice Block. They might be able to get a kill here with that full clone onto Citrix. He has to bubble out of it, but his healing isn't going to do too much with dampening at 31%, just spamming cast after cast. Now rotating another setup onto Walter. He needs to trinket this Hodge immediately, and he does so. Now in full retreat, but he gets feared out. He's still caught in the center of the map. Method trying to take Walter down, but he's going to be able to get out of line of sight. Vossel's doing a great job to peel.
Wow, he really did. Vossel saved saved the day right there with those peels as we see the Frost Jaw come out onto Absturge, and they're still going to just dump damage into Vossels with a, that was a poly onto Sturge right there as Vossels still in a dangerous position, having to use his gateway, having to use his portal, and he only ported like 10 feet.
Yeah, Vossel needs to get something done with this next Dark Soul. Citrix has no healing cooldowns remaining. They need to make their push now. We can see Gorecki trying to prep up the targets, purging all of their buffs down. Now throwing out Devouring Plague onto Walter, maybe just going for damage without crowd control. Now Rosita going in with that Evanescence, Deep Freeze, full Polymorph landed. Walter has no way to live this by himself. Absurge has to Trinket, but he doesn't even have a Spirit Link either. And now Method, forcing a Trinket out, are playing this kind of patiently at this point. They might pull back, they might stay forward. Citrix doesn't have a lot left here for about 22 more seconds. They're playing just a little bit too far forward, taking a lot of free damage at 40% dampening.
Yeah, they are. As you can see, that it looks like FollowESports is just going to go for it. Even without having that Incarnation available, they do have that Dark Soul, so they might be able to set some stuff up because Citrix still has a few seconds on his wings. So we'll have to see if he'll be able to keep his team up. But look at this. FollowESports knows that that wasn't going to work as they are going to retreat yet again. I like that FollowESports is taking the time to sit back because Absturge's mana is starting to feel the pain of this dampening as he is down to 45%.
That Frozen Orb just went nowhere. Rosita whiffing that cooldown, and that's not something you can afford here this late into the game. At some point, your healing is going to do nothing. Dampening can reach 100% if both of these teams want to neglect the offense. And with that Frozen Orb down, I really feel like FollowESports should get something done with that. Citrix's Avenging Wrath is going to be up to deal with the next attack. We now finally see that Dark Soul pop for Vossel. I think he's looking to rotate two of them in a row to rot this team down as Walter pushes in for a full stun onto Citrix, into another stun out from Vossel. Haunt is going to connect. He's down to half. They're looking to rotate the pressure onto Walter now with a full poly onto Absurge. He has no trinket. Walter in defensive mode. Unfortunately, Citrix is right there too, taking a bit of a bite out from Walter. We see Vossel's second Dark Soul available in 2 seconds. They need to survive this setup. Walter is caught into a Horrify right now, but with no CC onto Absurge, he should be able to keep him up. Now Vossel chaining that second Dark Soul in a row, and this is going to be terrifying for Citrix in a second.
It is. Now Walter Bear is on the run right now, trying to get back to Absurge, who was blanket silenced by that Shadow Priest. Citrix wings, that was a great job of stopping that offense just with the wings itself, and that those are going to fade. So he's going to have about a minute on those wings until they're back up. But look at Walter Bear knowing he needs to push in with that Incarnation. Looks like they need to make something happen right now as Citrix is taking a ton of damage.
How is he going to survive? The Aura Master comes out, he's spamming heal after heal. He's trying to make something happen onto Walter as well. Walter caught behind the pillar, trying to stay alive, but Absurge trinkets, gets the Dispel off, and Citrix is going to go down. And despite Method being such a powerful opponent, FollowESports winning the mind game are going to take game number 1. We see Gorecki and Rosita not giving it up. Absurge is not going to allow any sort of cheeky kill to come out, though. Drops that last Spirit Link to guarantee the win for themselves, and FollowESports are going to take game 1.
Wow, and what a great turnaround. They really forced Method back to the pillar in that late game. All right, let's see what Bajira saw during those matchups and see if he saw something a little bit different than us.
Definitely saw a lot of patience out of FollowESports. These guys are playing FLS, which is a comp that relies a lot on spread pressure, but as you could see, you need that Incarnation and Berserk damage to actually land a kill. And the comp that they're facing, Holy Paladin God comp, relies just as much on a setup, except it's up a little more often. So what we saw that last game was Absurge playing beautifully, disrupting their setup with grounding totems, 3 tremor totems, holding onto his Spirit Links to the absolute most necessary moment there. And one of the fun things about that game is it was a pretty long game, but we actually have the player pods behind us. You can hear FollowESports, yeah, they were yelling after that game, so they definitely knew that they had to do what it took to bring it out to the long game and stall it out a little bit, and wait for those cooldowns, bring it deep into dampening, and that patient, calm, collected play style ended up giving them that first win in the series. And these guys are definitely here to play today, and cannot wait to see that next game. Let's go ahead and throw it back to the casters.
All right, thank you very much, Bajira. And like you said, that was a long, drawn-out match. What did dampening get up to, about 35%?
I think we're at 50.
Wow. And that means that it went really, really long into dampening. One of the things we did this year is we did increase the time limit on arenas so that years past we may have done stuff like count damage off the scoreboard to determine the kill if we had a whole bunch of draws in a row. But all we did is we just upped the time limit. So now dampening will continue to tick up and up and up until about the 23-minute mark, or 20
around there.
And then it's at 100% dampening, which means no heals and absorbs work at all.
Yep, definitely. But we can see Follow Esports on their screens discussing the next strategy. Now we see Method. Who do we know who that guy is? Behel, who's that? Is he coming in?
Chanimals. I don't know.
Is it the ringer?
He could be. I mean, he's off that Warlock bench that the players were talking about, in the interviews and stuff, where they felt like, maybe the Warlock isn't the super solid choice. But as we can see now, Follow Esports has locked in their comp, and it looks like the map choice is going to be Tolvaron also. So now that we know that this is going to be a very large map, and we see Chanimals sitting down, it's kind of obvious what they're going to play at this point.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're going to see the Mage Lock Shaman, but it's not 100% though. Rosita's been practicing his Enhancement Shaman. He's high on the ladder. I think he might be the highest rated Enhancement Shaman currently, even as his alternate specs. So Goreki as well as him can play multiple specs. So maybe an LSD3. Maybe they want to bring out the rot pressure so that they know how to do damage better than their opponents, because we can see that Follow Esports have locked in the same composition, and you can't blame them. They played near flawlessly on defense and offense.
They really did. Walter Bear, got to give a shout out to him. I liked that he had that split-second decision of, okay, my Shaman seems like he's going to eat a lot of CC right now. Even though I do have time left on my Incarnation, I really need to get out of here. And we saw him a lot of times. He even almost got caught out in caster form for a little while, trying to run away and toss some heals out. And then, but every single time that Incarnation was up, they really, really capitalized on it.
Yeah, they really set up Walter well to get his Incarnations off, and I like that when they didn't have it, even for 30-second periods of time, you would see them just pull back, not risk anything, and play it completely textbook and take a clean one game here. They are one game away from eliminating Method. Method needs your help right now. We can see they're going to be bringing Chanimals in to try and bring this series back, and I can't blame them. Trying to win that mind game, maybe expecting the jungle cleave instead. The Holypaladin and Godcon would have definitely done better against that, but having lost that mind game and now having lost the first game, they are against the ropes, and they need to find a way to deal with this.
So they know what the comp is going to be, and what was odd is Chanimals was already setting up even before we saw the comp pick by Follow Esports. So I wonder if they might make a last-minute decision and change away from running Chanimals. But maybe they were expecting that swap. But oh, and look at that.
Enhancement Shaman Rosita is going to be breaking out his alt spec here, and like I said, he's the highest rated Enhancement Shaman even as his alt, so they're going to be bringing it to a dot matchup. This is going to be quite a long game, I would expect, but at the same time, once we move later into dampening, that's where the hard decisions come. Every global cooldown matters. Every Riptide you place. Where is your Earth Shield? Did you forget to put Water Shield up? Are you going to run out of water? Every single small decision matters even more in this kind of a matchup deep in dampening.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see how well Rosita Jones can play this Enhanced Shaman. Like you were saying, he's been playing it on live. We've been seeing him queue a lot, and if he's currently ranked #1, I mean, that's a great Shaman to go with.
Yeah, I mean, Chanimals won the BlizzCon, I believe, in 2013, playing the LSD composition. A little bit different now with the enhancement, but Chanimals is a very well-known Warlock, and I think he's going to be really in his element now, playing this kind of dot composition, as opposed to the MLS, whereas the FLS can just drag it out. The MLS needs to get set up, so I don't blame them for not wanting to run that. Instead, bringing it to this kind of dot matchup mirror almost. It's a mirror in itself. The Enhancement Shaman replacing the Feral Druid as a melee, which means that Absurge's team has a lot more burst, but Chanimals' team has a lot more survivability and a lot more utility. Both teams going to be looking to shut down each other's damage on both opposing Warlocks, and you expect them to get frustrated with the amount of interrupts that's going to be available for each other.
Oh yeah, and both teams are going to have a plethora of interrupts for that. And one of the things you're really going to watch for at home is that the triple CC setup, anytime they are able to land it, the fears with the clones, the hexes, everything together, that's how they're going to dismantle this team of Method, because every single time that Chanimals is taking damage or Goreki is taking damage, Rosita Jones is just going to be able to sit back and heal and help them out.
Yeah, now as this is a mirror, disregarding the spec differences, having 2 druids on each side, I think clones might be a deciding factor. Being able to clone an Iron Bark, cloning a Bark Skin, so those abilities reduce damage, and if you cyclone the target with them, they can no longer receive healing, and they're going to pause their health bar. So Walter and Goreki are going to be looking to get those things done. A little bit easier for Walter. If he gets locked on that, it's not the end of the world, whereas if Goreki gets interrupted on his cyclones, that could be the game for him, and he's going to have to take a lot of risks if they want to get those cyclones, and I'm curious if they are going to go for that offensive play, or if they're going to sit back similarly to Follow Esports in the last game.
Yeah, one of the things you touched on is the Ferals being able to cast Cyclone is so important in these matchups, because when you only have so many interrupts available, he's able to bait one every single time. He can just run into the face of your healer and just start casting a Cyclone, and you either have to use, a instant CC on cooldown, or you have to kick him at that point. And then once you have that open, your healer can just sit back and pump spells out.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of a nightmare for Chanimals to deal with the potential interrupt from Walter. He's got his Typhoon to knock him back on his cast. He can triple stun him in a row. He's got to deal with Vassal's interrupt, and both Warlocks are going to be running a pet sacrifice talent, which allows them to 2 interrupts. So there's just so many interrupts as you used a plethora of things that both of these Warlocks are going to have to deal with. And having that Cyclone on your Feral Druid is very important, because if you interrupt it, he's still fully capable of dealing damage and being a threat, but you can't ignore the Cyclone. So Walter's going to be looking to use those quite a lot.
All right, and I do believe we're just getting Chanimals still set up, getting his headset, making sure everything is working fine, because they have to be able to communicate with their teammates, even though they are sitting kind of close. It was funny, back in the day, like at some tournaments, where you positioned your members in order in your chairs always really mattered. You want your real vocal guy in the center who's going to be calling the shots, so that both on your left and right, they can hear it. But sometimes, like this, is this a bad thing if Chanimals is all the way on the left?
I think most teams rely on their healer as the shot caller. Generally, as a healer, it's your duty to be like, okay, what cooldowns do we have, guys? Let me know. We need to use this in this situation. And you kind of let your healer designate those things. Obviously, personal decisions can come in once in a while, but you definitely want a shot caller on your team to organize that, because if you overlap cooldowns in a matchup like this, it could be the end for you.
All right, and it looks like Tolvaron Arena again, like we said, since, of course, Method was the team that did lose, they got to pick the map for this matchup. And, of course, then we had the comps locked in by FollowESports, and followed by Method choosing to slightly counter it. I think this was a good pick. I'm excited to see how well Rosita Jones does in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm curious how much experience both these teams have in a matchup like this. It's not often that you'll see these teams playing these comps, let alone spam queuing them on the ladder at the same time.
Yeah.
So it could be a bit of a curveball that FollowESports needs to deal with, or even Method needs to deal with. I know it can be very challenging to get a kill against the Enhancement Shaman team. He provides a lot more off-healing that Walter Bear will not have access to, but Walter Bear's advantage is going to be those Cyclones. Look to see if he's able to land them effectively.
All right, out of the gates, 15 seconds. This is the last moment for Method. They need to secure this win on this map to stay alive in the tournament and make their way onto BlizzCon. Chanimal, let's hope that he can drag his team to victory playing that Affliction Warlock.
Yeah, and let's see which team wants to be the aggressors. Obviously, Rosita, having played that mage, is going to be switching to an Enhancement Shaman, so he's got a little bit of a mind game to play here, switching between classes. Hopefully not going to affect him too much. We can see both teams playing it patiently, and they might just want to wait it out. Obviously, you lose your defender's advantage by giving up your gateway by pushing in.
Yeah, they definitely do. That's going to be a tough choice. And watch the gateways and the counter gateways. Those will be big parts of this match. Of course, the gateway debuff, looks like a large green circle on the targets, and then they can no longer use the gateway. But I have a feeling that Chanimal is just going to be replacing this gateway over and over. They're going to try to decide. They're going to have to try to guess where this Feral is going to open from. But it looks like they are tired of waiting. Rosita Jones is going to make his way on over, tosses that Fire Elemental down very early, really trying to start the damage off for his team, but it looks like Vassals and Absterge don't want to have anything to do with this, as they're just going to sit behind the pillar on their mounts and just constantly run away from Rosita Jones.
Yeah, there's one thing that Gurecki's got to be afraid of the entire game, and that's Walter Bear's incarnation. If he's caught out of Bear Farm, he can easily get 100-0'd even through Barkskin, so he's got to make sure that he always has 2 rejuves on himself and 2 rejuves on his team, and that's going to tax his mana. We can see, obviously, neither of these teams want to give up that defender's advantage. I mean, Rosita's kind of baiting his opponents to come out and play, but I don't think they're going to give up that defender's advantage.
No, they're not. And we saw a close Hurricane, actually, so we'll have to see. It looks like they are going to choose to start right now, as it looks like Vassal, no, and just as I said that, it looks like he's going to run away, and here we go. Now Walter Bear is going to open up onto Gurecki, getting that rake stun out with the dots. Shadow Fury onto Rosita too. Look at the damage onto Gurecki already.
That was a huge Ferocious Bite. He's going to force the Nature Swiftness out from Gurecki, but he was very patient, held onto his Barkskin. That's going to be important when Walter goes for that incarnation. We see both Dark Souls pop by the Warlocks. They're going to be looking to load up full dots. Walter Bear pulling back here, trying to get some bleeds onto the other members. Rosita popping that Ascendance very early, trying to go for a kill, potentially onto Absterge. He's down to 37%, trying to deal with this pressure, trying to be a little bit greedy, holding on to some cooldowns here, as we see the Ascendance is going to be popped. However, there is still one more Dark Soul remaining. Method are going to be waiting for that Ascendance from Absterge to fade, and then looking for another attack.
All right, as Vossel seems like might be the target of choice at this point. There was a scary moment for FollowESports where both Walter Bear and Absterge were getting quite low, but of course Absterge having those 2 Spirit Links available, his team was going to be okay, and luckily was able to survive through that without using either of them.
Yeah, definitely very important. Now we see round 2, Chanimals popping that second Dark Soul, landing a Shadow Fury onto Vossel. Haunt's going to connect, but unfortunately they clone the Haunt. A bit of a miscommunication, I believe, there from Gorecki and Chanimals, and that Dark Soul damage is going to be wasted almost. Now we see Vossel's reversing the pressure with his own Dark Soul. Incarnation is popped for Walter. He needs to find a correct target here, landing a Hex onto Rosita. It will be removed eventually from the damage. Good Shamanistic Rage from Rosita. You need to respond to that Incarnation almost immediately, or you will get bursted down hard and fast, and even through the Shaman Rage is getting taken down 50%.
And like you were saying, these Cyclones are so important. Gorecki was able to push up and get at least 1 clone on the Incarnation so far. There's a stun onto Walter Bear too. They're just ticking the duration down on the Incarnation as it does fade, and he really didn't make anything that drastic happen. Even at the beginning of the match when he had that huge ferocious bite, that he didn't have Incarnation up for that, so he was able to force that scary situation onto Gorecki really early.
Yeah, and they're going after Gorecki once again, and Walter baiting out that Barkskin, not committing with that Tiger's Fury, wants to hold it for later. Now a clone, though, was landed onto Absterge from Gorecki. His team is starting to rot down slowly but surely. Gorecki going for another clone. He's going to snag that in between the globals. Rosita getting cloned up at low HP, and the Cyclones are the story of this game. Gorecki rotating another one onto Vossel, denying some early healing from Absterge. He's going to want to be able to connect that here very shortly. Now Walter getting cloned. Both these Druids are just going crazy, but Absterge gets capacitor stunned by Rosita down to 40% HP, holding onto his trinket, playing very patiently here, but he's kind of taking a risk. He's down to 39%. He might just want to trade a Spirit Link out this early on. Drops the Cloudburst Totem, tries to rotate it around, trying to kite with that Windwalk now, doing a decent job so far, and we can see Walter pulling back the entire team of FollowESports, trying to pressure Rosita off of their Shaman.
Yeah, it's there. He's able to land the clone onto Rosita, which does allow Absterge to get away without using any cooldowns whatsoever. The only thing that he has on cooldown right now is going to be the Ascendance, and that's the only cooldown this early into the match that he's had to use. Now, Gorecki is going to be taking a bunch of damage from Walter Bear, but without a threat of Incarnation or either cooldowns. He's able to just straight heal through it.
Yeah, Gorecki's doing a great job holding on to both of his Barkskins. He's only using his Nature's Swiftness during non-cooldown damage, so it's smart play from Gorecki holding on to those for later, because Incarnation's coming up in about 55 seconds. Unfortunately for FollowESports, Rosita's Ascendance is coming up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and Chanimal's already popping that Dark Soul, trying to lead in for Rosita, get this team down lower HP. Absterge doesn't have Ascendance for 5 more seconds. If Rosita can pop it and get some burst, he's not going to be able to deal with it right away. Seems like he's holding on to it. Lavalash after Lavalash, we see Absterge caught into a half bash, pops the Ascendance, but he's going to get bashed up himself. Walter needs to peel this Ascendance. Absterge is trying to kite away from it, doing a good job to line of sight so far, but Rosita doesn't care. Rotates the pressure onto Walter. Absterge there, popping the Ascendance, topping it off, and you can see cooldown for cooldown mirrored exactly from both of these teams.
Yeah, Absterge using the Spirit Walker's Grace also right there, knowing he has to get those heals off with that glyph active, as Walter Bear is going to be able to Cyclone Gorecki, and it looks like they're going to put a little bit of damage onto Chanimals. Look at Walter Bear just chase him, as Chanimals intelligently is standing right by his gateway in case he has to get out of there.
Yeah, definitely. We can see Absterge always using those healing waves, trying to save his mana, as we have now moved into dampening. Vossel getting pressured right now by Rosita. Absterge looking like he's having a bit of a hard time dealing with this, but we see Walter going in, pops the Incarn, going right after Gorecki, but he pre-Iron Barks it, and that is going to reduce all of this damage coming through. Vossel even landing a Haunt. If he did not get this pre-Iron Bark, he could have easily gone down. Now he's going to displace away, kiting and saving his Barkskin for a time later. Now Chanimals with the punishing Dark Soul, looking to take down Vossel and Absterge here, loading up full dots. Can Rosita connect in time, taking down that healing stream totem, trying to pressure Absterge in the backline. He's got 2 links available, but nobody's near him. He's down to 36%. Vossel's pulling back, but even Vossel is low HP. If they want to use the Spirit Link, Walter has to be the one in it, but Walter's going on the aggressive move. He needs to get back to Vossel and Absterge. They're having a hard time dealing with Chanimals and Rosita.
They are. Walter's Incarnation is almost completely negated by that great play of the pre-Iron Bark and Bear form by Gorecki. Not only that, immediately Chanimals started crowd controlling off of Walter Bear, and he almost didn't hit anything during that Incarnation.
Yeah, Walter trying to move in now. We see a Dark Soul available for Vossel. Gorecki blinking in, lands that half bash, looking to get a Cyclone at low HP, not able to get it, but he fakes the counterspell. Clones Vossel at low HP. Gorecki making the plays right now, rotating a clone now onto Walter, going everywhere with these, but Vossel and Absterge have managed to reconnect. They need to deal with this pressure. Walter may need to pull back and get into that potential Spirit Link, as they are all below 40% HP at the moment.
I can't believe he's still holding that Spirit Link.
I can't believe he is either. They're down at 13% dampening, and healing is not going to get easier. A stun onto Walter. Haunt connects, trying to load up dots back onto Vossel. We see Gorecki just rotating clone after clone, trying to be much of an annoyance to Follow Esports.
All right, as Vossel is going to port back to Absturge right there, as Absturge is going to heal himself up. But look at the damage onto Walter Bear too. This spread pressure is almost going to negate any incoming Spirit Link totems.
Yeah, at this point, Chanimals is just doing more damage, I think, than Vossel, and Absturge is unwilling to trade cooldowns. And now at this point, Spirit Link doesn't do anything. It splits your team's HP. If you're all exactly the same, you're just going to get a minor 10% damage reduction. That's not what you want from the effect. Dark Soul pop for Chanimals. He drops the Link. It does nothing. They're going to chop it up. Rosita going everywhere, damaging everyone. Absturge has to find a way to deal with this. Ascendances are coming up in 20 seconds. That's when the burst is going to follow it up. And Chanimals has 2 Dark Souls in a row. This is not looking good for Follow Esports. Gorecki blinks in, goes for the clone, but he gets locked out by Vossel. Nice counterspell to deny that Cyclone. They need to get some healing rolling. Absturge pops the Ore Master. We see Walter in desperation going onto Gorecki, but he's not going to get anything done. Dark Regeneration comes out from Vossel. Both players down to 25%. He gets locked out by Chanimals. How is he going to deal with this? His second Spirit Link is going to do nothing. He pops the Ascendance, but he doesn't have Ore Master. He has to deal with all this potential interrupting, and he gets locked out by Rosita. They're looking to end this. He pops the Battle Master, trying to kite away right now, down to 42%, doing a great job. Gorecki trinket out of that clone, lands a full bash, double Shadow Fury, triple stun out from Method. They want this game. They're in it to win it.
All right, as that Spirit Link, he still has it, but yet again, look at the health. Everyone is sitting under 50% health right now. It would be a minor benefit to use it, as he is going to have a very long time on his Ascendance. That Ascendance was used very well, but again, he did get locked on it, so it stopped a lot of potential healing.
Yeah, I don't know how Absturge is doing this right now. He's definitely losing on mana, he's losing on cooldowns, and he's losing on health. Rosita and Chanimal are relentless. Vossel is doing his best. He's maintained a decent amount of dots onto Chanimal and Rosita, but if they want to get the kill, they need to get dots onto Gorecki. They need to make a move. Gorecki doesn't have a trinket. Incarnation is just coming up. This could be the last chance for Follow Esports if they're able to survive.
All right, as Rosita Jones is just going to keep pushing in, knowing his self-sustain with those heals is going to help him out, even though we are about 26% into dampening, as Rosita is going to just pump damage into Absturge. Absturge really needs to get some big heals out onto at least a single person. And there we go. We have the counter Incarnation to try to peel Rosita Jones off of Absturge. I really like this decision that they made.
Yeah, now they're making a swap here potentially onto Gorecki. Not able to find it just yet. Trying to go for a Cyclone. Lands that onto Chanimals, but unfortunately Chanimals patiently holding onto that Dark Soul is more than willing to pop it when he leaves, I think. With Vossel down at 18%, this could be it for him. Spirit Link not available. Triple stun out from Chanimals. They want this. They want the trip to BlizzCon. They're going to gate away. Vossel in the center of the map doing whatever he can to counter pressure as Gorecki is caught in a full bash. Uses that Bark Skin, trying to stay ahead of the cooldowns right now. Walter needs to output some counter pressure, but he's just not able to. Rosita pushing in for the killing blow, trying to finish this game. Chanimals gates in on top of them as well. They are all fully dotted at the moment. Absturge is caught down to 17%. He trinkets, but he's got no cooldowns to pair for it. He pops the Stampeding Roar to try and kite away from Rosita, trying to get a healing surge off. He pops the Ore Master. He connects one final heal. Now he's down to 10% mana, and it is still not looking good for Follow Esports. They need to turn it around, but they're just not finding the opportunity.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to turn it around at this point. Vossel just taking so much damage. Absturge in the stun. Vossel gets down to 2% health during that. The excellent stun onto Absturge.
Yeah, that Dark Regeneration barely keeping him above water, but they have no dots. They have no pressure, and at this point Method is just going to pound them into the ground. We see Walter down at 18%. There's nothing available for him. Down at 2, and he will fall, and Method are going to tie this series up 1-1 as we move into a final Game 3.
You know what? Overall, even though that was a long game, it wasn't even close. Nope. Method controlled that game beginning to end, shut down every single offensive push. Both Dark Souls were completely negated. Walter Bear's Incarnations got shut down every single time he had it up. Bajira, what did you think about that amazing match?
So you gotta love Method bringing in the big dog, the team captain Chanimals, to bring them back into this series. So as we said, Method was fairly dominant that entire match. When you're bringing in the LSD3 versus FLS, you're facing the same classes, but the fact that the specs are changed up changes how the game plays out. FLS is a lot more reliant on that long cooldown, but powerful cooldown King of the Jungle and Incarnation. Whereas with an Enhancement Shaman, you have a lot of off-healing, you have a lot of utility, and in a long game, you can wear somebody down. Now, one of the interesting things about this game is that, you know, although Absturge was doing his best C2 impression, keeping his team alive with just slivers of health, that actually may have been something he wanted to do intentionally. By leaving his teammates low, it makes the Shaman healing, the mastery, that much more powerful. As your teammates are at lower health, you heal for more. However, against the Enhancement Shaman pressure, that's not quite going to cut it. The other thing was, the enemy teams, or the Resto Druid, was doing his best Cubsy impression as well. You could see as they were building pressure, there were Cyclones on nearly every member of the enemy team, so they were shutting down a lot of the offensive pressure too. And once, like we said, that was a very dominant performance from Method, and FollowESports is going to have to find something or some way to overcome that. But we're going to go ahead and throw it back to the casters and get ready for the next match.
All right, thank you very much. And one of the things to note, since we did have the scoreboard at the end of the match, of course, Chanimals pumped out 12.3 million damage from
That's
the
a lot
dots,
of damage.
which seems like a lot of damage, but the thing to note is Vossels only put out 9.7. That is a huge difference in that
That is
match.
a very big gap, and you can see maybe the LAN experience Chanimals much more comfortable in this stage settings. I could see Vossel doing his best to get these things accomplished, but he just wasn't able to. They weren't able to revert the pressure. Now, that game looked very one-sided. However, FollowESports won the mind game, the blind pick in round 1, and now they're going to be able to take advantage of that composition decision. Now, what do? Do they sit Chanimals out? Do they keep them in? Because I know that if they keep Chanimals in, I think that FollowESports is going to change in Jelly Beans on that Hunter to try and punish them for that.
Yeah, I really have a feeling they're going to, but I don't know. If there's one Warlock that can make a difference like this in a matchup, especially being very calm and collected during that match, it is going to be Chanimals.
Yeah, it really will be. Rosita, though, might be the weak link in that decision. We've seen FollowESports when Jelly Beans comes in to play that Hunter cleave, that the Enhancement Shamans are all terrified of that team. No Enhancement Shaman has survived the wrath of FollowESports. So if they make that decision, it could be the end for them. We can see that these teams are talking it out. This is the last chance. Each team needs to win this. If they lose it, they're out, and that's it.
They are. And again, if you guys are just tuning in, if you were watching StarCraft just a little while ago, this is going to be FollowESports.com versus Method, and this is going to be our last game in Match A. So this is a best of 3. Both teams are tied 1-1 right now. The loser goes home. The winner continues their journey on to try to qualify for BlizzCon.
Yeah, and I can tell that they're just talking about the mind games as we go back and forth. They're saying, should we stick with this? I think we did pretty solid. We just didn't find the opportunities. We need to make sure that Walter, our Feral Druid, gets his biggest cooldowns off, and if he's not able to successfully, we can see that the pressure just will not turn around, and the momentum will always be swinging for Method. So you guys watching, tuning in, if you want Method to win this, this is their last chance, the final game to prove themselves, to move it to the Group 4, the final stage later on today. Or if you're cheering for the underdogs, FollowESports. They've been battling it out. They are the only Hunter team in this tournament. If you want Jelly Beans to make it to that final round of 4, give them their energy because they're going to need it. Vihel, who do you think is going to take this?
I don't know. After that last map, I'm going to have to say Method. I think that they just played phenomenally well. However, having that ace up their sleeve, that Hunter that they can swap in, which could almost counter this pick that they just made. What we're waiting for right now is after a team loses a match, they get to pick the map. And then after that, now Method is going to have to decide on what comp they're playing. As you can see, it almost looks like Chanimals is packing it up.
Yeah, they need to decide what they're more afraid of. Like I said, Jelly Beans is notorious for killing Enhancement Shaman, so if they keep Rosita on that Enhance, it could be a weak link.
Oh, that's it.
And I'm curious if they're going to have to make a change out here as we see the players swapping over, but what composition are they going to play? They have a lot of options. They started with Holy Paladin God comp, so Mage, Shadow Priest, Holy Paladin, but it did not look good for them. I'm wondering maybe if Gareki is going to break out the Moonkin.
He might be. That might be the answer that they need at this point, because when you have that 4-man roster, you can swap around. But the greatest part of having a 4-man roster is when you can slot 2 healers that can play DPS specs well. That makes so many different comps open up to you.
Yeah, it really does, and we can see both teams talking it out. It looks like a bit of a commitment from Method, but we're not 100% guaranteed on that. Method have locked it in at this point, and they are going to be playing Frost Mage, Holy Paladin, Shadow Priest, and it did not look good for them in game number 1, but they're more afraid of Jelly Beans on Hunter. You can tell a little bit of respect for that potential swap in for Jelly Beans, which means that Fossil, Absterge, and Walter need to keep a cool head, and I think that they're going to stick with that Feral Lock Resto Shaman composition.
Yeah, I think that's what we saw on camera right there from Absterge, just nodding and saying same comp. So what do you think about this pick from Method? Do you think they overthought it?
Maybe they think that they can change up the strategy and maybe just go ahead and pressure Absterge. We saw him playing very good games yesterday, but the final game that made him go to this point and have to battle it out for his last chance was that he was just not able to drop that Spirit Link in time. And maybe they want to take advantage of that. Maybe they're going to rely on the nerves being rattled for the team just losing a game, and it's the final shot for both of them. However, Channels with the most LAN experience, I would think you'd want to keep him there on the chair because you know that he's going to have a level head moving into this.
Yeah, I don't know. I really got to question this from Method. I mean, I know that they were expecting the swap to the Hunter because they have the option to do it, but I mean, that God Comp play, Holy Paladin Shadow play with the Frost Mage and Shadow Priest from the start, it didn't look like anything from that last match.
Yeah, it was anything but God versions of it. Maybe they've got a different idea, though. They were trying to go after Walter for a long period of that game, and Walter seems to be one of the most unkillable players in the tournament, falling once, I believe, but in that situation, really, what could he have done? But he seems to be the best defensive player in the tournament, always knows when to run, always knows when to go in. Walter is really the MVP right now for his team.
Do you think that the map choice of Dalaran Sewers is going to play, well, did it make did it change the decision of Method on what comp to play?
I mean, they could have gone for another dot comp, the LSD3, but I think they're too terrified of Jelly Beans on Hunter. Yeah. So they wanted to try and get that map advantage, but I think it's going to backfire for them. Maybe they're trying to mind game, I'm not sure, because the losers get to pick the maps. They wanted to throw them off into thinking that they might play that.
Maybe that was it.
But yeah, so we can finally see some mind games here between these two teams, but this is it. You're either in or you're out.
Yep.
This game decides it.
It's tied 1-1. This is the end of Group A. Both teams have lost a match at this point, and it's down to it. This map on Dalaran Sewers, it's going to be a really tight, close map. We're going to see a lot of Ring of Frost probably from Rosita Jones. Actually, I'm interested. He is going to be playing Evanes, as he's also going to be playing Frostjaw instead of that Ring of Frost. So this is a different setup than we've seen mages play. Additionally, Citrix playing that Beacon of Faith and the Hand of Purity is also a very large difference.
Yeah, he wants to deal with that dot pressure as much as possible, but Method did not look good in the first round playing this composition. They're going to need to change some things up, and I mean, a small map like this, I expect them to go after Absterge almost start to finish. Maybe a little bit onto Walter, just try and get them off center, Earthshield on a wrong target or something like that, and exploit Absterge with no healing over time effects. We can see Vossel positioning back towards the boxes here. Walter staying in stealth. He does not want to get popped out. I'd imagine that he wants to open on Citrix or Gorecki, but he's being very patient to not get blizzarded out by Rositas, and you can't force him for not wanting to rush in the final game.
Oh, no, of course not. And he had a lot of patience in the beginning of the last map, too. They are going to toss down those blizzards just here and there, really trying to find Walter Bear, just to guessing game at this point. There's nothing really that's going to tell them where he is, as I do like that they're recycling between near the shaman, away from the shaman, random in the room and stuff, but it looks like that Gorecki is going to be the initiator, as we do see a Psychic Scream coming out, so Gorecki is going to be able to get the dots up, but immediately Walter Bear is leaping over and starting the damage onto Gorecki.
Yeah, they started onto Vossel and they baited the Earthshield onto him. Now Walter is completely exposed, caught into a Horrified. Trinkets that immediately, pops his survival instincts to reduce this incoming damage, but he's still so low at 33%. Absterge is still getting crowd control. They need to deal with this, down at 9%, and that's going to be the Spirit Link coming out from Absterge. A lot of cooldowns forced out for FollowESports. Now the Incarnation coming out from Walter, trying to make a turnaround. Rosita getting torn apart right now, down to half. Now leaping over to Citrix, putting bleeds onto everyone. Now going for a Cyclone, lands that onto Citrix. Gorecki getting caught into a Capacitor Totem stun from Absterge. Well-placed stun from Absterge, forces the Trinket out from Gorecki, but Rosita getting crit, down to 7%, has to use the Cold Snap. He's not playing Ice Block. They need to recover right now, and Citrix getting locked out over and over, down at 23%. He needs to make it out of this alive, down at 20, down at 30. Walter is going to be able to connect. Citrix has to bubble, and right now, FollowESports smell blood. Rosita still down at half, and Citrix is struggling.
Yeah, as you can see, Citrix just pumping those heals out. Gorecki is helping as much as he can too, but does get cycloned right there. Rosita Jones down to half, having to Evanes shortly earlier than that, and like we said, that's a shorter defensive, but Citrix, they're going to switch it up onto Citrix, down to half, Divine Protection at that point. Look at the life of everyone from Method. FollowESports is dominating this map so far.
Citrix gets locked out again. This could be the end of the game. He has nothing to deal with it. And that means that FollowESports are going to move into the round of 4, and that Method is eliminated. What an upset for FollowESports, taking this series 2-1.
Wow, and that was a lot of damage. Hey, I gotta give it to Method. That beginning was incredible. And it's unfortunate that they weren't able to continue that wave of momentum to bring them the win. But FollowESports is going to be your champion of this match, winning 2-1. Let's hear from Bajira and see what he thought about it.
Wow, so as great as those players played, these guys are top level arena players. I think a lot of what it came down to, you can actually maybe even hear them celebrating backstage. A lot of what that came down to, I think, was the mind games. Right from the start, they played that FLS, they got the win, and even though they lost the second game, the information they gained and the sort of mental edge that they got leading into the third game actually allowed them to completely dominate that third match. You can look at the end of this game. Even though things got just a little bit scary for Wallabear right off the beginning, Absterge dropped a beautiful Spirit Link, keeping him just out of Death's grasp, but then they quickly turned it around, cleaving all the health bars on Method's team until they finally were able to drop Citrix with some very, very nice interrupts. So you have got to wonder if Method is going to be having some very, very sad second thoughts about what could have been in this tournament after making some fairly questionable swaps. However, that's one of the cool things about WoW Esports, hashtag WoW Esports even, is that it is not just about the in-game skill of the players. It's not just about how these comps line up. It's about how you play the tournament from a mental perspective. It's absolutely amazing to see these guys taking the full tournament approach, and I'm really excited to hear from them in just a few moments. We are going to throw it back to the casters, and we'll be hearing from the teams very, very soon. Thanks for an awesome game, and we'll be hearing from the winners very, very soon. Back to the casters.
All right, thank you, Bajira. Like you said, got to give my hats off to both those teams. There was an amazing play on both ends. We got to see Chanimals on Warlock, which was an exciting turn of events. And of course, Absterge just playing phenomenally well as a Resto Shaman, really keeping his team healthy. Even in those scary moments during Tolvaron, when he knew that his Spirit Links weren't going to do anything at all, he still kept his cool, baiting all those kicks, everything like that. He's playing so well this tournament.
Yeah, but I think you really need to give credit to Vossel. He's a young player. He's new to the scene, and he nailed every single interrupt. He really won that game for his team. So congratulations to him for doing that. It was so good. And we have an interview now actually available of the winning teams. We're going to be jumping over to that.
All right, guys, I'm joined by FollowESports captain Absterge, who has definitely earned the right to be excited here. So just right off the bat, what we were talking about before was the team swaps or the lack thereof from you guys in terms of maybe mind gaming your opponent. What was that about?
Well, we really feel against all their comps that FLS is probably the safest bet. We could play jungle if they decide to play turbo or something because we know they can play multiple comps, but we felt like if we played FLS that no matter what they played, we still had a chance, so that's what we decided to do.
So obviously we saw you win 2 out of 3 there. What happened in that second match? You seemed to struggle a little bit against LSD3.
The second match, anytime we ever play against LSD, we didn't really have a complete strategy on how to beat the comp. We just knew that it would be a long match, long dampening match. We played against Smexon's LSD a few times, and each game is about 12, 13 minutes long, so we just figured if we tried dampen, then we'd do well, but we had some miscommunication, some target calls that were kind of off too, and our Warlock had a hard time with all the CSs going on, so it was just tough for us.
Well, after the first game, speaking of longer games, that first match was definitely a little bit of a drawn-out battle. Mm-hmm. And then even though they played the exact same comp for that third match, you guys seemed to absolutely handle business. Did you learn from that first match? And if you did, what did you learn that allowed you to close it out so quickly?
Well, I think the first match we had, we knew that we had to play really safe because the map is a lot wider. So if we ever try to overextend or push in, then Wallabear could easily just fall over in one of their setups. But anytime we've ever played against Pally God Comp on Dalaran, we know that we can actually just pretty much overwhelm them with pressure. So what we did the last game, as you saw, we tried to communicate our kicks as best as possible on the Pally because stopping CC, if I can dispel, is pretty much worthless. So that's pretty much what we did.
Well, awesome. I know that you are eager to go celebrate with your team, but also maybe not celebrate too much because you guys are not done in this tournament. Mm-hmm. You got a very, very strong semifinal match coming up. But, excellent job in these matches. They're a lot of fun to watch, and excited to see you guys in the future. We're going to go ahead and send it to a short break and get back to the action. Thanks for watching, guys.